I should have known something was up the moment she started obsessing over her old high school jeans. I was standing at the bedroom door, arms crossed, watching her twist and turn in front of the full-length mirror. The light blue denim hugged her hips tighter than I remembered. She hadn't worn those since before Ellie was born, and now suddenly she was trying them on like it mattered. "Oh my God, they still fit," she squealed, turning to face me with a grin. I gave a soft laugh. "Yeah, barely." She stuck her tongue out. "Whatever. I just need to break them in." It was the first time in months I'd seen her with that kind of energy. Dana was glowing, flushed cheeks, freshly curled blonde hair, lip gloss shining under the bedroom lights. And it wasn't for me. I knew it. That glow didn't have my name on it anymore. She held two dresses up to her chest. "Which one says, 'I used to be a heartbreaker, but now I'm successful and happily married'?" I leaned against the doorframe. "Is that the vibe you're going for?" She smirked. "It's my 20-year reunion, babe. You know how it is." No, I didn't. I didn't even go to my own. She chose the red one. Tight, low cut. It hugged her body in a way that would have made me pull her back into bed just a couple years ago. But now, I just watched, pretending not to feel anything. I couldn't lie. She looked amazing. She always had that effortless beauty, but this was different. This was calculated. The hair, the makeup, the dress that screamed, "Look at me." There was a hunger behind her eyes, something I hadn't seen in a while. "You're really excited about this?" I said, trying to keep my voice light. "Why wouldn't I be? It's been 20 years. I haven't seen these people in forever. I want to see what everyone's up to. And honestly," she grinned, stepping into her heels, "I want them to see me now." I forced a chuckle, but the pit in my stomach told a different story. Dana used to talk about high school like it was a different lifetime. A blur of cheerleading, parties, and heartbreaks she never wanted to relive. But lately, she'd been reminiscing nonstop, telling stories at dinner about people I'd never met, most of them guys. And one name kept coming up more than the rest: Jason McMillan. I'd never met him, just a name from her past. Quarterback, prom king, the guy who never noticed her back then, according to her. But I noticed the way she laughed when she mentioned him. The sparkle in her eye. The casual, careless way she said his name, like it didn't mean anything. It meant something. "You sure you don't want to come?" she asked, spinning in front of the mirror again. "Spouses are invited." I shook my head. "You said you wanted a night to catch up. I figured I'd let you enjoy it without me tagging along." She shrugged. "Suit yourself. But if I get drunk and wind up on stage singing No Scrubs, you'll wish you were there to record it." I smiled, but something inside me twisted. "Just don't forget you're not single anymore." She paused, lipstick in hand, looking at me through the mirror. "Come on, Adam. It's a reunion. I'm not going to hook up with anyone." I hadn't said that, but maybe that's where her mind went. When she left that night, the house felt different. Colder. Quieter. I sat on the couch, watching TV, but my eyes kept drifting to the clock. 8:07, 9:12, 10:45. I told myself I wasn't waiting up, but every minute that passed felt like a slow leak from a tire. Pressure building, anxiety creeping. She texted around 11:20. "Still here, running late. Don't wait up. Might crash at Liz's if we go too hard, LOL." I stared at the message. She'd never used LOL in a text to me before. Never said "don't wait up." I typed back, "Have fun. Be safe." Then deleted it. It wasn't until I went to bed alone that I realized I hadn't kissed her goodbye. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing her laughing at some guy's joke, his hand resting a little too comfortably on her hip, her leaning in close to whisper something that wasn't mine to hear. It wasn't even jealousy. It was fear. Fear that I was already gone from her thoughts. By morning, she still wasn't home. She texted at 7:42. "Stayed at Liz's. Just grabbing breakfast. Be back soon." When she walked through the door an hour later, she was humming some pop song I didn't recognize. She tossed her heels off like a teenager coming home from prom. Her hair was a mess, makeup smudged under her eyes, but she didn't look hungover. She looked satisfied. "Good night," I asked from the kitchen. "The best," she said, grabbing a bottle of water. "God, you should have come. It was such a blast." "Yeah? Who was there?" "Everyone. Even Jason showed up." She said his name casually, like she hadn't just dropped a match into my gut. "You should see him now. Still got that whole tall, dark, and brooding thing going on. A little gray, but it works for him." I didn't say anything, just nodded and sipped my coffee. "Anyway, she continued. He actually remembered me. We talked for a while. Caught up on life. He's divorced now. Shocker, right? You two catch up a lot. I asked. She gave me a sideways glance. Is this an interrogation? No, I said. Just curious. She rolled her eyes and disappeared into the bedroom. I sat there in the quiet house, listening to the muffled sound of her shower starting upstairs, wondering what had just changed between us. Something had. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I felt it. Like a crack in the foundation finally making its way to the surface. I wanted to believe it was just a night out, old memories and harmless fun. But something about the way she smiled when she said his name, it didn't feel harmless at all. And I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end of it. It was just the beginning. Reunions are strange things. They promise nostalgia, but deliver something more dangerous. Memory through a lens that always flatters, always filters, and almost always deceives. That was the thought that kept replaying in my head the morning after, as I watched Dana glide around the kitchen like nothing had changed. She had on one of my t-shirts, oversized on her, the hem barely brushing the tops of her thighs, and she poured herself coffee like she hadn't just disappeared overnight into a world I wasn't invited to. She hummed under her breath. Not a care in the world. You seem chipper, I said. She smiled over her shoulder. Because I had a great time. I wanted to ask how great, but I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I watched her sink into a kitchen chair with her mug, legs crossed, skin glowing under the soft light from the window. For a moment, I was reminded of the Dana I met years ago, the one who used to bite her bottom lip when she was nervous, the one who looked at me like I was the only man in the world. Now she looked at me like I was a habit. So, I asked casually, what did you all do after the reunion? Bar hop? Or was Liz's place the real after-party? She blinked, just for a second. A flicker of calculation. Both, actually. We went to that dive bar on 7th. Jason and a few others tagged along. Then we crashed at Liz's. Jason again. Sounds like fun, I said, not hiding the sharp edge in my voice. You and Jason always this friendly back in high school. She laughed, a short, breathy thing. Hardly. He didn't even know I existed back then. He was into the cheer captain, the usual cliché. But he noticed you now. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing slightly. You're fishing at him. Don't. Maybe I was. Or maybe I was already drowning. I didn't hear much about the reunion until a few days later, when I bumped into Dana's old friend, Kara, while getting coffee. I didn't like Kara. She was always too loud, too flirtatious, and too messy with other people's boundaries. But this time, she was gold. Oh my God, she said, spotting me in line. Hey Adam, you survived the weekend, huh? I raised a brow. Why wouldn't I? She smirked. Your wife was on fire. I mean, damn. If I looked half that good, I'd be dangerous. I gave her a tight smile, but something inside me twisted. Yeah, she said she had fun. Fun? Kara grinned. Let me tell you, she owned that room. She had guys practically lining up. And we made this stupid little bet. You know, just for laughs. What kind of bet? Her smile widened, and she leaned in like we were co-conspirators. We dared Dana to see if she could still turn heads like back in the day. You know, test the waters a little. Confidence boost. I forced a chuckle. She didn't need to do that. Oh, please. Every woman wants to know she still got it. Especially around a guy like Jason. She gave me a wink. And he definitely noticed this time. Something in my jaw clenched. And what, exactly, did the bet involve? Kara looked momentarily guilty. Nothing crazy. Just flirt a little, make him blush. It was stupid. But something in her tone told me it hadn't stayed stupid for long. When I got home that evening, Dana was in the bath. I could hear the gentle slosh of water and the low hum of her playlist. The same slow R&B stuff she used to play when we first started dating. Her phone was charging on the counter. Normally, I wouldn't. But something about Kara's smug expression and Dana's renewed energy made my fingers move on their own. Just a glance. Just enough to see the most recent text. Jason, you were the highlight of my night. Still can't believe you actually came up to me first. Another message followed. Didn't think you'd take that bet so seriously. Glad you did, though. No emojis. No flirtatious gifts. But somehow, that made it worse. It wasn't playful. It was intimate. Real. The water shut off in the bathroom. I put the phone back where I found it, sat on the bed like nothing had happened, and waited. She came out in a towel, wrapped tight, her skin glistening and pink from the heat. When she saw me, her face softened. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Just tired." She came closer and straddled my lap. Her skin was still warm from the bath, and the scent of vanilla and soap filled the space between us. She kissed me, soft and slow, and for a moment, I felt her again, really felt her. Her body, her lips, the way she moaned faintly into my mouth. But then my mind went back to that text, to Jason, to the bet. She pulled back slightly, still tired. I looked at her. My wife. The woman who once said forever and made me believe it. "You ever think," I asked quietly, "that some bets aren't just bets?" Her eyes flickered. "What's that supposed to mean?" I didn't answer. I just let her climb off me, wrap her towel tighter, and walk away. In the hallway, she paused and turned back. "You're being weird, Adam." Maybe I was. Or maybe I'd just started to see her for who she really was. She didn't come home that night until 2:17 a.m. I know the time because I was wide awake, lying in the dark, staring at the glowing numbers on the alarm clock like they were counting down to something. The soft creak of the front door, the subtle shuffle of heels being slipped off near the mat. I heard it all. I didn't say anything, just listened as she tiptoed through our home like a stranger trying not to wake someone. In a way, she already had. The next morning, I said nothing. Neither did she. There was a quiet agreement not to speak about where she'd been, about why she'd stayed at Liz's again. It hung between us like a fog. But something broke the moment I overheard Ellie asking Dana, "Why do you look so happy lately, Mom?" Dana had paused, just a split second too long, before replying with a laugh and some excuse about just enjoying life more. I should have asked her then. I should have pushed. But I didn't want to know what I already knew. It wasn't until the following weekend, at the grocery store of all places, that the whispers found me. I was in the produce section, picking out avocados, when I heard two voices behind me. Low, conspiratorial tones, not even bothering to mask the amusement. "Did you see Dana at the reunion?" She looked hot. I didn't even recognize her at first. And Jason, God, the way he looked at her. She practically dragged him to the hotel. "You didn't hear?" "No." "Shut up. Did she actually?" A pause. Let's just say Liz had to cover for her. Again. My hand tightened around an avocado until I nearly crushed it. They weren't talking about some harmless flirtation. They weren't joking anymore. They were confirming something I'd feared from the moment I saw Jason's name light up her phone. That night, after the kids were asleep and Dana curled up next to me pretending to watch a movie, I turned to her and said it plainly. "Did you sleep with him?" The words hit the air like a slap. She blinked, stunned at first. Then her shoulders stiffened, her jaw set. "Where is this coming from?" she asked, voice tight. "You know exactly where it's coming from. The bet, the texts, the late nights, the lies." She didn't deny any of it. Not at first. She stood and crossed her arms, pacing near the TV like she needed to stay in motion to keep from falling apart. "I didn't plan for anything to happen," she finally said, her voice quieter now. "It was supposed to be harmless. Just fun. The girls dared me to flirt, and then, I don't know. He came on strong. It felt good to be noticed again." "And then what?" I asked, even though I knew. She hesitated, biting her lip. "We talked a lot, and then we drank. One thing led to another, and we ended up at his hotel." My chest went hollow. I don't know what I expected. Maybe a denial. Maybe even a lie. But not confirmation. Not this calm, surgical truth. "So you fucked him?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She flinched. "It wasn't like that." "Wasn't like what?" "You got dared to flirt, and instead, you had sex with your old crush behind your husband's back. That's exactly what it was like." She looked at me, finally meeting my eyes. And for the first time in a long time, I saw a flicker of something behind the guilt, defensiveness, justification. "It was a mistake," she said. "A one-time thing. It didn't mean anything, Adam. I needed to know I could still be wanted, that I wasn't invisible." "And what am I?" I snapped. "A roommate? A ghost? You needed to feel wanted? What about me? What about 17 years of wanting you every damn day?" Her voice cracked. "You don't understand what it's like to feel forgotten. Try being married to someone who disappears right in front of you and thinks flirting with her ex is some kind of cute fucking challenge." Silence. The weight of everything we weren't saying hung in the space between us like a ticking bomb. She sat back down on the couch, hugging herself, suddenly small. I thought it would just be fun, she whispered. Just a stupid game. It stopped being a game when you took your clothes off. She didn't speak after that. Neither did I. I slept on the couch that night. The cushions felt foreign beneath me, like I didn't belong in my own home. I stared at the ceiling, reliving every detail she'd shared, every gap she hadn't filled in. How long had she thought about him? What did he say to her? Whisper in her ear. Did she hesitate, even for a second, before crossing that line? I thought about her hands on him, her lips, the sound she made. And worst of all, I thought about how she came home afterward and looked me in the eye like nothing happened. That's when I realized it wasn't just about the sex. It was the choice. The conscious, deliberate decision to betray something sacred for nothing more than a dare and a drunken memory. And the wound it left behind? It wasn't the kind that faded. It festered. It took me 2 days to say another word to her. 2 days of silence that cut deeper than shouting ever could. 2 days of moving around each other like ghosts. The house became a museum of avoidance. Carefully placed cups on opposite ends of the table, hushed footsteps, locked bathroom doors. And in that silence, the betrayal echoed louder than ever. On the third morning, she sat across from me at breakfast, her eyes tired, lips dry. The kids had already gone to school. She stirred her coffee like it might reveal a spell to rewind time. "We need to talk," she said softly. I didn't answer. I didn't look up from my toast. "I know you're hurt. I know you hate me right now." Still, I said nothing. Her hands trembled slightly as she set down the spoon. "Adam, it was just that one night." I looked up then, slowly, coldly. "One night doesn't matter?" I asked. "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." She sighed, pushing her fingers through her hair. "Look, I screwed up. I know that. But it wasn't about him. It was about me. About this emptiness I've been feeling. And for one night, I just wanted to feel something again." "You couldn't feel it here? With me?" I asked, trying to keep my voice from breaking. "You needed him for that." "I don't know what I needed, okay?" she snapped, then softened immediately. I felt invisible, Adam. I needed to know I was still desirable. Still alive. I laughed, bitterly. "So fucking him was your version of CPR?" She flinched, but didn't deny it. "I never stopped desiring you," I said. "Not once. You pulled away. You shut down. And then you turned that into some excuse to cheat. You built this story in your head where I'm the boring husband who forgot to appreciate his wife." Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't care. "I didn't cheat because of you," she whispered. "I did it because I lost myself. And Jason, he was just there. A reminder of who I used to be." I stood slowly, every muscle in my body tight. "So this was some fucking identity quest? You found your old self between his sheets?" "No. I found a mirror, and I didn't like what I saw. And yet, you still did it." She didn't argue. She didn't try to spin it. And in that moment, I realized she wasn't looking for forgiveness. She was looking for permission to move past it. To make it small enough so we could go back to normal. There is no normal after betrayal. There's only the before and after. "You said it was a mistake," I said. "But you still talked to him afterward. You smiled about it the next morning. You didn't come home." She stared at her lap, silent. "Was it more than once?" I asked. "No." Her voice was hoarse. "It was just the reunion night. That was it." I narrowed my eyes. "Why do I find that hard to believe?" "Because you don't trust me," she said. "You gave me every reason not to." She stood now, pacing the kitchen like a caged animal. "What do you want me to say, Adam? That I hate myself?" "I do. That I'd take it back if I could?" "I would." "That I ruined everything?" "I know I did." I shook my head slowly. "No. You don't get to ruin something and then decide how quickly it gets rebuilt." Her eyes snapped to mine. "So what then? Divorce? Is that what you want?" "I don't know what I want." "Then why are we even having this conversation?" "Because I want the truth," I snapped. "I want to know how you could look me in the eye, sleep next to me, raise kids with me, and still decide that a dare from your friends was worth throwing all of that away." Her face crumpled, and for a moment, I saw the woman I fell in love with, fragile, human, full of guilt. But the sight didn't move me. "Tell me the truth," I said. "All of it. Don't give me this half-assed, I felt lost story. Tell me what happened. Every detail." She shook her head. "I can't do that. It'll only hurt more." "It's already hurting," I said. "You owe me the truth." She sat back down, exhaled hard. Then she told me how they laughed over drinks, How he touched her arm and complimented her dress. How it felt dangerous and exciting. How she followed him out of the bar without a word to her friends. How the elevator ride up to his room was filled with nervous laughter and second guesses she didn't listen to. How she let him kiss her like she was 20 again. How she let it go further than she planned. Until stopping wasn't even on the table. She told me how she regretted it, but not immediately. How in the moment, she felt alive. Free. How she hated herself after, but not during. That was the worst part. She didn't just slip. She dove. By the time she finished, her mascara had run, her eyes were red, and her voice was barely audible. I sat in silence. She reached out across the table, but I pulled my hand away. Adam. I stood again, my chest tight. You did what you did to feel alive. And you know what I felt? Dead. For days. I've been walking around like a fucking ghost in this house. She sobbed now, quietly. I'm sorry. I looked down at her, not with rage anymore, but with exhaustion. With mourning. You didn't just cheat on me, I said. You made a choice that can't be undone. You wanted to prove something to yourself. And you did. Congratulations. You proved you can still turn heads. I turned to walk out of the room. And now everyone's looking at me too, wondering why I'm still here. Some betrayals don't bleed out loud. They leak. Slowly. Quietly. Like a cracked pipe behind the wall. At first you don't notice. Then one day, everything collapses. And people say, didn't you see the signs? That's how it felt waking up next to her after everything had come out. Like I was living in a house already halfway sunk into the ground, and no one had told me the foundation was rotting. She was trying, in her own way. Making coffee in the mornings again. Putting on music during dinner. Sitting closer on the couch. Like if she stitched together enough of the old routines, we'd forget the giant fucking hole in the middle of us. I let her try, but I didn't touch her. Not once. She noticed, of course. The way I flinched when she brushed against me. The long, blank looks I gave her when she tried to start small talk. The way I said goodnight, like a stranger in a hotel lobby. I didn't have the energy to fake it. But worse than what was happening inside our home was what started happening outside it. The whispers. I felt it first at Max's football practice. I was leaning against the fence, watching him run drills, when two moms I recognized from school functions turned and hushed their voices as I walked by. They weren't subtle. Then came the texts from friends who heard something weird from someone who wasn't even there, but apparently Dana. They always trailed off. At first, I didn't respond. But the embarrassment built slowly, like heat under your skin. Then one night, at a backyard barbecue our neighbor Pete threw, everything cracked wide open. Dana and I had decided to go because we thought it would look normal. A mistake. The moment we stepped into their yard, I could feel the shift. Friends who usually greeted us with hugs now offered forced smiles, brief eye contact. The conversations died when we walked past. And then Liz, her friend, the one who was supposed to be her alibi that night, pulled me aside near the drink table. Adam, she said, her voice low. I just want you to know I had no idea she'd leave with him. I blinked. What? That night? Liz whispered, glancing around to make sure Dana wasn't nearby. I told her I'd cover for her if she needed to sneak off early. I thought it was to avoid some other girl she didn't like. I didn't know about him. You helped her lie? I asked. She looked guilty. She told me it was nothing. Just a little fun. I didn't think she'd actually go through with it. I downed my drink in one swallow and walked away. Later that evening, I caught Dana laughing with someone. Too loud. Too bright. A kind of performative joy, like she was auditioning for forgiveness. And I realized something in that moment. She really believed this could be patched up with enough goodwill. That if she played the perfect wife, the world, and maybe even I, would just reset the scoreboard. But she had no idea what it felt like to be the one everyone pities. I was no longer Adam, Dana's husband. I was that guy she cheated on. The one people whispered about in the hallways after PTA meetings. The one other husbands looked at with that mixture of sympathy and fear. Please, God, not me next. And the worst part? She didn't seem to get it. That night, after the barbecue, she curled up next to me on the couch and rested her head on my shoulder. I think we made a good impression tonight, she said softly. Everyone seemed happy to see us. I didn't move. Adam. I looked at her. They weren't happy. They were watching. She frowned. You're being paranoid. No, I said. You're being naive. She sat up, defensive now. So what? We hide forever? Never go out again? We don't pretend this is fixed. I snapped. We don't act like nothing happened. She folded her arms. You think I don't feel it? Every day? You think I don't hear the whispers too? I stood, shaking my head. Then stop pretending we're okay. We're not. I don't trust you. I don't know how to look at you without seeing him. Her face tightened, like she wanted to cry but wouldn't give me the satisfaction. I said I was sorry, she whispered. And I said that's not enough. We went to bed in silence, again, like we had every night since the truth came out. Only this time, I slept in the guest room. Again, days turned into weeks. The kids noticed. Max grew quieter. Ellie clung to her bedtime hugs a little longer. They didn't know the full story, but they felt it. Kids always do. Dana suggested therapy. I said I'd think about it. But I didn't need a therapist to tell me what was already obvious. She thought time would heal this. But all it was doing was giving the wound more room to grow. And every minute that passed, I felt myself slipping further away from her. From us. From the version of myself who believed she'd never hurt me. It was a Thursday afternoon when Kara showed up at my office. I hadn't seen her since the reunion. Since the whispers. Since everything began to unravel. My office is usually quiet around that time of day. The construction firm I work for doesn't really bustle after 3 p.m., and I developed a habit of closing my door more often than I used to. Not because I had too much work, but because silence had become my only refuge. So when my receptionist buzzed and said, "There's a Kara here to see you, says it's personal," I didn't know what to expect. She walked in wearing oversized sunglasses and guilt-like perfume. She didn't sit at first, just stood in the doorway like she wasn't sure she was allowed in. "I know I shouldn't be here," she said. "Then why are you?" She exhaled and shut the door behind her, finally sitting across from me. She fidgeted with her purse strap, chewing on her bottom lip like she was 12 and had just broken a window. "I owe you an apology," she said. I didn't respond. I just stared. "You remember the night of the reunion?" "Vividly." She flinched. "That bet? The one we dared Dana to take? It was supposed to be a joke. Just stupid fun. I never thought she'd actually do it." I leaned forward slightly. "So it's true? The whole thing started because of a dare?" Kara nodded. "We were drinking, laughing, talking about high school. I think I said something like, 'I bet you could still have Jason eating out of your hand if you wanted.' And Dana just smiled. Then Liz piled on. Then Rachel. We didn't think she'd actually go for it." "Why would you even suggest that?" I asked, trying to keep my tone even. "I don't know," she said. "Jealousy, maybe. Boredom. You put a bunch of women who haven't felt sexy in years into a room with alcohol and old memories, and suddenly everyone wants to prove something." I ran a hand through my hair. "Well, congratulations. You proved something, all right. I deserve that." There was a long silence between us, the kind that begs to be filled but dares you to speak. Kara looked down at her hands. I told her it was a game. She looked at me, right before she walked over to Jason, and she said, "He never looked at me in high school. Let's see if he does now." I thought she was bluffing. I could see it so clearly. That smug little challenge in Dana's eyes. The slow walk across the gym floor. The way women test boundaries not by crossing them, but by daring someone else to say no. She didn't even hesitate, Kara whispered. And when she didn't come back, we all knew. I swallowed the lump in my throat and leaned back in my chair. "So why are you here? What do you want from me now?" Kara looked up, and something in her expression softened. Less guilt, more shame, or maybe regret. "I didn't come to clear my conscience," she said. "I came because I feel like I helped ruin your marriage." "You didn't," I said. "She did." She nodded slowly, but her eyes didn't leave mine. "I never meant for it to go that far. I swear. And for what it's worth, I don't think she's sorry for the reasons you think she is." "What does that mean?" Kara hesitated, then said quietly, "I think she's sorry she got caught. Not that she did it." I stared at her. She still talks about him. Not often, but when she does, it's with this weird tone, like a memory she's proud of, but knows she shouldn't be. A beat passed. "She said it was one night," I said. Kara looked down. "Maybe, maybe not." That hit harder than I expected. I clenched my jaw and turned away, staring at the window, at nothing. "I'm sorry, Adam," she said again. "I just thought you should know the truth." When she stood to leave, I surprised myself by stopping her. "You want a drink?" I asked. "Something stronger than coffee?" She blinked, caught off guard. "Sure." We sat in the break room, away from the whispers and judgment. I poured us 2 fingers of whiskey from the bottle I kept hidden in the top drawer of my file cabinet. Kara sipped hers slowly. You didn't deserve what happened. Does anyone ever? She gave a soft, bitter laugh. No, but it always happens to the ones who play by the rules. I looked at her, really looked at her. Her face, tired but still striking. Her eyes, rimmed with guilt but also something else. A kind of solidarity. We didn't say much after that. But as she stood to leave, she paused at the door. If you ever need to talk, she said. Or, if you just want someone who knows what this feels like, I'm around. I nodded. Thanks. After she left, I sat at my desk for a long time, staring at the closed door. For the first time in weeks, I didn't feel completely alone. And that scared me more than anything. I never meant to text her. I stared at her name, Kara D, sitting there in my recent contacts like a lit fuse. My thumb hovered over the screen for at least a full minute. Then, without giving myself a chance to talk myself out of it, I typed. Thanks again for dropping by the other day. I appreciated the honesty. Her response came faster than I expected. Anytime. You doing okay? Simple question. Loaded as hell. I wanted to lie. I wanted to say I was fine, that things were smoothing over, that Dana and I were working through it, whatever that meant. But I couldn't bring myself to lie to the one person who seemed to get it. Not really, I wrote. Feels like I'm living with a stranger I used to love. She didn't respond right away. When she did, it was just, that's a hell of a sentence. And somehow, that meant more than any sympathy could. We started texting here and there. At first it was casual. Jokes. Shared bitterness. Quiet confessions about what felt like the slow death of trust. She told me her own marriage had ended 4 years ago, not because of cheating, but because of silence. She said betrayal doesn't always come with another body in the bed. Sometimes it's just emotional absence. I started looking forward to her texts more than I wanted to admit. Then came the night she called. I was sitting in the backyard with a beer, watching the last of the sunset bleed through the trees. Dana was inside with the kids, pretending things were normal again, talking about takeout and school supplies and that tight-lipped smile she wore now like armor. When my phone buzzed and I saw Kara's name, I answered without hesitation. Hey, I said. Hey, she replied, her voice quieter than usual. Weird question, but do you want company? I blinked. Now. I was already out driving, she said. And I figured. I don't know. If not, that's fine. I should have said no. I didn't. 10 minutes later, her car pulled into the driveway. I met her out front. She was wearing a loose hoodie and jeans, no makeup, hair pulled back. She looked real. We didn't go inside. We just sat on the patio furniture out back. She pulled her legs up beneath her, sipping the beer I handed her. Everything okay? I asked. She gave a tired laugh. I just didn't want to be alone tonight. And you seemed like someone who'd get that. I nodded. I do. We talked for hours. At first, about nothing. Music, movies, work. Then, deeper. She told me how she'd been friends with Dana since college, but always felt like the third wheel. She was the golden one, she said. Always got the attention. Always had the stories. I told her about how Dana used to leave little notes in my lunchbox. How she used to hum while folding laundry. How I used to count freckles on her shoulders after sex. We fell silent for a bit after that. I hate that she did this to you, Kara said finally. I looked at her. I think I hate that she didn't seem to care enough. That's the worst part, she said. When they stop treating you like someone worth breaking for. That line stayed with me. It was close to midnight when she stood to leave. The air had cooled, and there was a dampness on the grass. I walked her to her car. She opened the door, then paused. Can I ask you something? She said. Sure. Do you think you'll ever forgive her? I didn't answer right away. I don't know, I said. Some days I want to. Other days, I want her to feel it. All of it. Kara nodded like she understood that perfectly. She hesitated, then stepped forward, and for a split second, I thought she might hug me. She didn't. But her hand brushed mine, soft, intentional. It lingered. Then she slipped into her car and drove away. I watched her tail lights fade down the street, heart pounding harder than it should have been. That night, I lay in bed beside Dana, wide awake, wondering how someone else's touch, brief, accidental, had made me feel more seen than all the apologies she'd whispered in the dark. And for the first time since the reunion, I wasn't just mourning what I'd lost. I was wondering what else might be waiting to be found. It started with a kiss that wasn't supposed to happen. I told myself we were just two broken people leaning on each other, that it was harmless, emotional scaffolding. But there's a fine line between comfort and desire, and once you cross it, there's no pretending you didn't mean to. It had been a rough week. Dana was trying harder than ever, too hard, planning date nights, sending me flirty texts that felt rehearsed, like she was reading lines from a husband repair manual. Her touch was softer, her eyes always searching mine for signs of progress. But I didn't feel closer. I felt suffocated. And so I texted Kara again. Just, busy tonight? She replied, not if you bring decent wine. I did. We met at her place this time, an older house tucked back from the street, cozy, dimly lit. Her dog barked once, and then flopped down beside the couch like he was used to strangers appearing with sad eyes and wine bottles. We sat in her living room, candles flickering, the soft hum of a record player spinning some vinyl she'd found at a flea market. Dana's still pushing? She asked after our second glass. Harder than ever, I said. She thinks effort equals forgiveness. And does it? I looked at her. Would it if it were you? Kara gave a dry laugh. I wouldn't forgive someone who used me to prove they still had it. We both went quiet. The silence was thick, charged. Not awkward, just full. Her foot was tucked under her body angled toward me on the couch. She wore a loose, off-the-shoulder sweater that kept slipping just enough to show skin without meaning to. Or maybe it meant to. I felt the pull again. That slow burn of being seen. Wanted, not as a prize or a responsibility, but just as a man. You ever think you're going to get over it? I asked. She tilted her head. You mean Dana? I nodded. Kara stared at me for a moment. I think the better question is, do you even want to? Her words hit hard, and I didn't have an answer. She stood to pour more wine. Her sweater slipped again, revealing the smooth slope of her shoulder, the curve of her collarbone. When she turned, our eyes locked, and something passed between us. A question neither of us asked out loud. I took the glass, our fingers brushing again, like that night on the porch. This time, I didn't pull away. She sat closer now, legs touching, breath mixing. I feel guilty, I said quietly. Why? She whispered. Because I haven't even kissed you yet. She blinked, surprised, but not by the desire, just by the honesty of it. Then she leaned in. Her lips touched mine, soft and hesitant, like she was giving me the chance to back away. I didn't. The kiss deepened, slow at first, exploratory. There was no rush, no ripping of clothes, no desperate moaning, just heat, connection, a shared ache that found relief in the press of mouths, the slide of hands along fabric. Her fingers curled around the back of my neck. I pulled her closer until she was half in my lap. We kissed like people who'd been waiting a long time to feel something real. And for those few minutes, I forgot. I forgot Jason, the reunion, the pain. I forgot the nights on the couch, the pit in my stomach, the humiliation of being the last to know. I was just here with her. But then her lips slowed. She pulled back slightly, breathless. We should stop. I nodded, forehead pressed to hers. I know, but neither of us moved. When she stood, I followed. She walked me to the door, and we paused there, unsure if anything we said now could make this less complicated. I didn't plan for this, she said softly. I know. It felt good, though. I nodded. Yeah, too good. She looked like she wanted to say more, but instead just placed her hand on my chest, right over my heart. Take care of yourself, Adam. I walked away. My car felt cold, sterile, like the air had shifted around me. The guilt came rushing back as I turned the key in the ignition. But right under the guilt was something else. Control. For the first time since Dana's betrayal, I didn't feel powerless. I didn't feel like some discarded husband stuck holding the broken pieces. I felt wanted, desired, chosen. When I got home, Dana was already asleep, or pretending to be. I stared at her for a long time, her back turned, her body curled in the same position she used to sleep in before the world fell apart. She didn't stir. I climbed into bed and lay there, eyes open, listening to the soft rhythm of her breath. But I wasn't thinking about her. I was thinking about Kara's lips, the taste of wine on her tongue, the feel of her sweater against my palm, and the truth I hadn't wanted to admit until now. I wasn't just angry anymore. I was drifting, and I wasn't sure I wanted to come back. Dana started noticing the change before she understood it. At first, she thought I was just coping better. That's the word she used. Coping. Like I was recovering from a sprained ankle or a cold, not betrayal. She saw the calmness in my face, the neutral tone in my voice, the steady distance I kept between us, and mistook it for healing. But it wasn't healing. It was indifference, and she could feel it, even if she didn't want to admit it. She started hovering again, checking my calendar, asking where I was going, who I was with, what time I'd be back. A woman who once screamed for space now clung to every movement like she was afraid I'd vanish if she blinked. The irony didn't escape me. "Is something going on?" she asked one evening over dinner. I looked up from my plate. "What do you mean? You've been different." I chewed slowly, swallowed. "I thought you wanted me to move forward." "I do. I just didn't think you'd move on without me." I said nothing. She stared at me a moment longer, then looked down and pushed her food around on her plate. I watched her. Her gestures. Her eyes. The way her brow furrowed just slightly. She was suspicious. Good. The truth is, I hadn't seen Kara again. Not yet. But the texts had continued. Brief. Intimate. Not overtly romantic, but heavy with subtext. We weren't playing with fire. Not yet. But we were standing close enough to feel the heat. The idea of her had begun to fill the space Dana used to occupy. Her laugh would echo in my head at odd moments. Her smile would flash behind my eyes when I should have been focusing on work or the kids or anything else. And Dana, she could feel it. She tried to pivot. She started dressing like she used to. Tight jeans, low-cut tops, spritzes of that vanilla perfume she wore back in the early years. She flirted, subtly at first. A brush of the hand, a long glance. Then more obvious. One night, she walked into the living room in nothing but one of my old button-down shirts and lace panties. She leaned in, brushing her lips against my neck. "You remember how crazy you used to get when I wore this?" I did, but I also remembered how crazy I'd felt picturing her taking it off in a stranger's hotel room. I pulled back. "I'm not there yet." Her face fell. "You're not even trying." "No," I said, standing. "You're just not used to being the one ignored." The silence that followed was sharp, almost satisfying. The next morning, I found her crying in the shower. And for the first time since all of this began, I didn't feel sorry for her. Instead, I felt something darker, something closer to balance. Because now she knew what it felt like to be on the outside. Later that week, she caught me smiling at my phone. I was reading one of Kara's texts, a stupid joke about our old chemistry teacher who apparently got caught shoplifting makeup. But it had made me laugh, genuinely, which was something Dana hadn't done in a long time. "What's funny?" she asked, trying to keep her tone light. I slipped the phone in my pocket. "Just a meme." She narrowed her eyes. "From who?" I didn't answer. And just like that, her composure cracked. "Are you seeing someone?" she asked, almost too casually. I raised an eyebrow. "Is that really a question you want to ask me?" She hesitated. "It's not the same." "No," I said. "It's not. I didn't disappear to a hotel room while you were trying to remember who I was." Her jaw tightened. "So you were seeing someone." I didn't say that. "You didn't have to." I stared at her. "What's the difference, Dana? I was faithful to you for 17 years. You shattered that. And now you want to draw a line in the sand because I'm texting someone who listens to me?" She looked down, blinking quickly. "I made a mistake." "You made a choice," I corrected. "Now I'm making mine." She didn't ask about Kara. Not directly, but I could feel her trying to trace it. Looking through my call logs when she thought I wasn't paying attention. Commenting when my phone buzzed late. Putting extra effort into dinners and date nights that I never agreed to. She was scrambling, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel like the weaker one. It wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about getting even. It was about reclaiming something I didn't realize I'd lost until it was already gone, my self-respect. With Kara, there were no games. No guilt. No performance. Just truth. I hadn't kissed her again. Not yet. But I thought about it. Constantly. And every time I did, Dana's grip on me loosened a little more. By the time the weekend came, she tried again, this time suggesting we get away. "Just the two of us," she said. "Maybe a cabin. Somewhere quiet." "I've got plans," I said. "With who?" I just looked at her, and that silence said more than any answer ever could. The dinner party was Dana's idea. Of course it was. She said we needed to reconnect socially. Show people we were fine. That word again, fine, as if it was some magic spell to wipe away betrayal. She set the table like we were hosting a Hallmark movie. Lit candles, carefully folded napkins, one of those charcuterie boards she found on Pinterest. She even wore a dress I hadn't seen in years, navy blue, low back, something I once peeled off her in a hotel room during our 5th anniversary. Now it just looked like a costume. There were 8 of us total. Dana invited Liz, her husband Greg, and 2 other couples we'd known for years. She didn't invite Kara. I did, and I didn't tell her. The front door opened 20 minutes into drinks. I was already on my 2nd whiskey. Dana stood in the kitchen, laughing a little too hard at one of Greg's dry dad jokes, when the laughter died like a candle in the wind. Kara walked in wearing a black top, dark jeans, and that quiet confidence that had always made her magnetic in ways Dana never quite grasped. Dana turned, her smile faltering. What is she doing here? She's on the guest list, I said simply, taking another sip. No, she's not. I invited her. The room shifted. Conversation stalled. Liz looked at the floor. Greg awkwardly cleared his throat. The other couples exchanged glances, suddenly very interested in their wine. Kara didn't flinch. Hope I'm not crashing, she said, calm and pleasant. Adam mentioned you were hosting. Thought I'd swing by. Dana's jaw clenched. Can I speak to you? Alone? I smiled. Of course. She dragged me into the hallway, her voice a sharp whisper. What the fuck are you doing? Returning the favor. Her eyes blazed. This is not the same thing, Adam. You're right. I didn't sneak off into a hotel room. I invited someone over publicly. Big difference. Her voice cracked. Are you sleeping with her? I leaned in, close enough that she had to inhale the truth. Does it matter? You opened that door. She pulled back like I'd slapped her. I made one mistake, she hissed. You're trying to humiliate me. No, Dana. You humiliated yourself. This. I gestured toward the dining room. This is just the bill coming due. We walked back in like nothing happened. I poured Kara a drink. She thanked me with a soft smile. Dana barely spoke for the rest of the meal. But that wasn't the explosion. That came later. We were halfway through dessert when one of the wives, Rachel, decided to ask the question everyone had been dancing around all evening. So, are you two really okay? She aimed it at Dana, but her eyes flicked between both of us. The table went still. Dana opened her mouth, but I beat her to it. We're figuring things out, I said. Dana forced a smile. It's been a journey. Kara raised her glass. That's one way to put it. The silence snapped like a twig. Dana turned slowly toward her. What is that supposed to mean? I stiffened. Kara didn't blink. Just seems like you're enjoying the part where you play the victim, she said, voice cool and measured. But maybe not enough attention is being paid to how this started. Excuse me? Dana hissed. You heard me. Dana stood. You don't belong here. Kara stood too. No, Dana. You don't get to make that call anymore. You lost that right the night you crawled into bed with your high school crush like a teenager on spring break. Gasps rippled around the table. Liz dropped her fork. Greg whispered something to her, but she just shook her head, wide-eyed. Dana's face went pale. Are you seriously bringing this up here? She snapped. Why not? Kara asked. You brought the lies here. Might as well bring the truth. Dana looked to me, desperate. Are you going to let her talk to me like this? I sipped my drink and said nothing. I made a mistake, Dana said, turning to the table. One. I owned it. We're moving past it. Kara scoffed. You didn't own shit. You buried it. You played house while he bled out next to you. That was when Dana lost it. You're pathetic, she said, voice rising. Always wanted what I had. Always second best. You think this makes you special? No, Kara said, calm again. But it makes me better than you. Because I didn't pretend to be loyal while fucking someone else. The room was frozen. I stood. That's enough. Both women looked at me. I turned to Dana. You wanted this night to prove we were okay. But we're not. We're done pretending. I'm not your project. I'm not your punishment. And I'm definitely not your safety net anymore. Dana's lips trembled. So what? You're with her now? I looked at Kara, then back at Dana. I don't know what this is yet. But at least with her, I feel human again. Dana stared at me, horror and humiliation dancing in her eyes. She stormed out of the room. No one followed. The dinner party ended shortly after. Quietly, uneasily, Kara helped me clean up in silence. When the last glass was washed and the last chair tucked in, she turned to me. Well, she said, that was a hell of a night. Yeah, I said, but it was necessary. She nodded, and then, without a word, she leaned in and kissed me again. No hesitation this time. And I let her. Because for the first time since my marriage crumbled, I felt like I wasn't drowning anymore. I was swimming toward shore. 3 weeks after the dinner party, I filed for separation. No screaming, no slamming doors, just paperwork and silence. A cold, official end to something that had already bled out long before either of us had the courage to say so. Dana didn't fight it. She cried, yes, pleaded for a second chance in quiet, trembling words. But when I handed her the envelope, she didn't tear it up. She didn't rage or beg. She just looked at me with the eyes of someone who had finally realized the game was over. And this time, she wasn't holding the cards. I moved into a small rental not far from the kids' school. 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, a little back patio where I could drink coffee in the morning without having to pretend I was okay. The first night I slept there alone, I expected to feel hollow. But I didn't. I felt clean. The house didn't smell like her perfume or echo with the laughter that used to mean something, and now just felt like an echo of a lie. I didn't wake up wondering what she was thinking or if she still checked Jason's Instagram when she thought I was asleep. I didn't wonder if every apology was just a rope meant to tie me back into the role of the forgiving husband. I was done being cast in her show. Kara came over 2 days later. She brought Thai food and a bottle of wine. No makeup, hair messy. She kicked off her shoes at the door and sat on my couch like she'd always belonged there. "How are you feeling?" she asked. I thought for a second. "Lighter." She smiled. "Good. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't fall into bed or pretend this was some fairy tale born from the ashes of betrayal. We just sat close, watched a movie, and existed together. And that was enough. I know what people think when they hear stories like mine. That the guy who gets cheated on is weak. That if he stays, he's a doormat. If he leaves, he's bitter. There's no winning, just judgment. But they never see the in-between. They don't see the nights when you lie awake wondering what you missed. The mornings when the weight in your chest makes you forget how to breathe. The way your kids look at you like you're still a hero, and you wonder if you're about to let them down. They don't see the smile she gives you over dinner while her phone lights up with a message from someone else. They only see the wreckage, never the slow-motion crash that caused it. What I've learned, what I'm still learning, is that betrayal doesn't start with sex. It starts with indifference, with silence, with choosing yourself over the promise you made to someone else and justifying it with phrases like, "I needed to feel alive," or "it didn't mean anything." But it always means something. It means respect is gone. It means loyalty was traded in for validation. It means the person you loved is now capable of looking into your eyes and lying without flinching. When Dana took that dare, she thought it was a game. She thought proving she could still turn heads would make her feel young, wanted, powerful. And maybe it did for one night. But here's the thing about games. Someone always loses. She lost her marriage, her image, the man who would have walked through fire for her. And me? I lost my illusions. I lost the belief that love, once solid, can't be broken. I lost the comfort of ignorance, the belief that she would never. But I gained something else. I gained clarity. I learned that love isn't about perfection. It's about choice. Daily, deliberate choice. And once someone chooses not to choose you, the spell is broken. You either pretend nothing's changed, or you walk away with your dignity intact. And that's what I did. Walking away didn't feel like failure. It felt like freedom. Now, when I see Dana, usually during drop-offs or school functions, we exchange polite nods. There's no venom, no fire, just 2 people with a history and a shared responsibility. The kids are okay. They're adjusting. And me? I'm not healed. Not entirely. Scars take time. But I'm healing. With every breath I take in my own space. With every honest conversation I have with Kara. With every day I wake up not wondering who she's texting or what lie I'll be handed over breakfast. People ask if I regret any of it. Staying, walking, even meeting Kara. And I don't. Because everything that happened forced me to see the truth I was too afraid to face. Sometimes the person you fall in love with is not the person who stays. And sometimes, the one who stays isn't worth falling for again.